house of cards fall. That's really what you got to do. It's one of those things, like I said, it's not our fight. We ain't got nothing to do with that shit.
Look, this is the last thing I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
We have treaties. Larry got treaties with Latin counts, with El Chapo and other Mexicans from the street. Angel Bay got treaties with Latin kings and various other Spanish groups. We don't have a problem with Mexicans. What we have a problem with is participating in a fabricated false narrative that has nothing to do with the Mexicans or us. They don't have nothing to do with the Mexicans, what's going on. That's all staged. People are paid to come there that don't even live there to protest. Let that sink in. The real Mexican connection we have is with some people called the Zapatista, the people that live in the hills in Mexico that follow the teachings of Emilio Zapata, that the settlers who masquerading as Mexicans has been persecuting ever since they've been there. The Afro-Mexicans, they call the ones in the inner city. We had no problem with them. We got a problem with the fakes and the frauds, the ones that come over here and think they better than us.
Yep.
But the ones that come over here and hang out with us, brothers from a lighter shade of brown type Mexicans, we got no problem with them. They know the truth. Kareem Oahu be on here dropping more historical information on YouTube than half the brothers out here that don't know who they are, that think they know.
That's facts. Shout out to Nina to Hack. Yeah, boy. I like to say that when things get real hot and greasy and fired up around here. So she hit it. I don't know if she been watching it. That's her thing, but I be saying it. Yeah, boy. Yes, sir.
Listen, shout out to Flavor Flav, chief on the Shinnecock Nation.
Yep. Yeah, boy. Listen, on a lighter note too. That's real though, because I remember I went to Mexico years ago, and this was back when they had like the little restrictions on the cruise where if you go out, you enter at your own risk. Man, me and my pops was out there riding damn scooters all throughout the damn island. We was getting nothing but love from the Mexicans, bro. I'm talking about, and I saw them riding in pickup trucks with choppers and riding on bikes with all black with choppers on their back.
Yeah. And so we got to be more scholastic and more what they call politically correct. I don't believe in being politically correct, but it's certain stuff that they giving us a hard time if we say so. We're going to try our best. I don't know how good I'm going to be out there. I'm going to do the best I can, man, but I might slip up here and there, you know. So, but we got to be more scholarly in the delivery of what we're talking about today. So it might not be as galvanizing as it would be with the seasoning of the special words that we like to use.
Yeah.
So we had to get that disclaimer out the way.
Yeah. All right. So Rod, now this is an interesting thing. So I've been spending Dr. Malachi York is still in jail, and we waiting on Larry to get released. And so I've been working on some on his case. And so I'm gonna drop it on his birthday on Thursday. And man, it's interesting. AI is interesting. So I went to the newwapianfact.com. If you wanted to find out about Dr. Malachi's York case, you can go to newwapianfact.com. They did something to the free Dr. Malachi's York.com website, but what I'm trying to say, I copied the whole newwapianfact.com, the whole website, and then I gave it to AI, and I said, tell me how to get Malachi out of jail, right? And the AI gave 3 scenarios that I'm gonna be dropping. It's more pieces to the tape, but this is the main part about the tape. And AI, it gave 3 options, but the main option that it focused on was Judge Ashley A. Royals. all the stuff. Yeah, it said that. Yeah, it said that Judge Ashley A. Royals, he sealed the files. He closed the court. He did a court date on a federal holiday when everybody was off. All the county clerks, everybody off on federal holidays. Why would you hold a court case when everybody off? How's that happen? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but AI dropping everything on how Judge Ashley A. Royals broke the Brandy violation, First Amendment, Doc's First Amendment right, Fourth Amendment right, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, all the way up. Right? They broke all of his rights. Right? And then the other angle, the main angle was that Judge Ashley A. Royals, and it gave me different ways to come at him. And then the next way that it said was Doc's sovereignty. And that's what my question for you is. The sovereignty, it said that Malachi's sovereignty, being that he a chief of the Yamasee Native American Indians. They said that was like their number one. That was a number one ping that AI pinged out of getting Doc out. So now, how did this play out, being that Doc is a certified chief on the land, even with, we don't know they on treaties of paperwork, they got the legacies of it. But how does the sovereignty play out with their court systems? It just based on what they say, or is it, do they got they ain't honoring anyway, but how does that work with the sovereignty and the difference with the court systems and being put into jail?
Okay, first you got to realize that he's in there on a RICO charge. All them years is based on a RICO charge. We got it all confused because of the propaganda smear campaign, but he's in there on a RICO charge right now.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they charge somebody with RICO, like R. Kelly's in there on a RICO charge, right? They told us he was going to trial for what? Human trafficking, right?
Yeah.
But he went to trial on a RICO charge. Right now, we watching Puffy. They telling us that Puffy is on trial for sex trafficking, right? And they're using all these other things, but he's actually in there under the allegations with a RICO charge. Spanish, RICO mean rich.
Go ahead.
Right? And we know that R. Kelly is an idiot savant.
Right.
He can't distinguish groups of people, so he was supposed to have been protected, right? Because he's a musical genius.
That's right.
But he's a social idiot.
Go ahead.
Right? He has the intelligence socially of a second grader and the educational capabilities to match.
Wow.
This is all public record. This is not nothing I'm making up.
Yeah, I heard all this. He used to be in the subway. That's how he got playing the piano.
Right. He borderline retarded, basically.
Yeah.
And you charging the retarded dude with sex trafficking, and when you read and listen to the testimonies in this case, he was always at the studio when somebody brought a girl to him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They try to make him out to be a predator. I don't know whether he is or not. I ain't never met R. Kelly a day in my life. I'm just following what the actual situation is versus the alleged situation.
Right.
They use the sex cases in order to villainize them so bad, because don't nobody want to be associated with molesters and rapers.
That's right.
You can't even go to prison associated with molesters and rapers and expect to not be harassed.
That's right.
Right. So where is you gonna go? So that's the first thing we got to understand, how the propaganda machine works.
That's right.
The allegation of rape is always used because the evidence is not the rape itself, but the allegation.
Dang.
You got to remember that the key evidence in any rape case is not the rape. It's not the DNA. It ain't nothing but the allegation. Right? Now, the RICO cases always brought out when they trying to get at somebody's wealth.
That's right.
Now remember, the Teflon Don himself, John Gotti, beat everything until he ran into RICO. Remember that.
Mhm.
The Teflon Don, John Gotti, beat everything until he ran into RICO. RICO is a government subversive activity. The government is using it to stifle men from becoming powerful amongst their community. In other words, take out the chiefs. Right? Now, the RICO charge was specifically developed to bring down the heads of corporations and organizations. It's in the history of the document. That means that there got to be something in that RICO case where they can sustain. Once you get a RICO conviction, it's almost impossible to get out on appeal. It's next to impossible because soon as the other judge see that it's a RICO charge, they know that you are a prominent member of the community. Whether you Trump at Trump Plaza or whether you Gotti in the underbellies of the 5 boroughs, it don't matter. If you are influenced, you are subject to RICO if the government want to get rid of you. Now, we know it to be designed to get rid of heads of organizations, right? But the most powerful organization that could ever manifest on the land is an organic tribe.
Go ahead.
We already know that they got a war declared against us from counterintelligence programs, how they infiltrated, how they hit the Panthers. And we already know they have a war program because the cocaine came in under Rex 84. Or it wouldn't have came up in the Iran-Contra scandal and we still wouldn't know about it. We would still be called it the Lord Alfred plan or the King Alfred plan. But to find out that it was actually readiness exercise, 1984, right, ties us back into the COINTELPRO under a different name, right? Because the description is different, but the purpose is the same, right? So when you are sovereign and they want to wage war against you, but they don't want your tribe to get involved, right? That's when they put your name on what's called the war rant. We say warrant, but it's the continuation of the original declaration of war waged with the arrival of Columbus in 1492. Right? This is why we mentioned jurisdictional supremacy, and we did that episode on understanding jurisdiction. We got territorial rights, and territorial rights is currently being enforced. It's just not instant. It's just not instant. The Air Force and the Navy, that's our admiralty jurisdiction, right? We supposed to be governing with the great law is supposed to govern land, air, and water, right? The land, which is the law of the land, which is the sacred great law. And the first principle of that law is love, which comes from the teachings of the mother. So it takes us back to the matriarchy, right? So under the law of the land, military enforcement domestically is done under National Guard control. You got Joint Chiefs of Staff. They got all of the branches of military, right? And when you do a domestic, right, a domestic action from the military of the United States, like toppling domestic enemies, because they oath of office to protect the Constitution says to protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? Once the domestic war was declared in 1933, they activated the National Guard, but the National Guard did it strategically by allowing FBI to keep records and CIA to keep records and then come in at this time and then take over. because they discovered the discovery of the fraud cancels the contract. Once they realized that they was using the fraudulent corporate jurisdiction, now they wait on a competent heir. When I say heir, I don't mean AIR, I mean HEIR, as inheritable rights. Right? So now you have the corporate entity called the United States, and then you have the We the People entity that they changed the name of on documents from the Confederation of Tribes to the Constitution of the United States. And to defend that document, also have to defend anything that is grandfathered in. Anything, any law that has not been overturned, right, can be used under the grandfather clause, even from a pre-existing system. This is why we had to go back to the oral tradition. Because before they said put it in writing, we said, come tell me about it.
Right.
You see the difference? Come tell me about it. I need to understand what you're looking at, and then I can look at it from my angle and see if I see it the same. Come sit down, talk to me for a minute. We forget that the tribes invented American Sign Language. Sign language was not specifically created for deaf people. It just was a valuable benefit they inherited. The sign language was created, the American Sign Language that all of the deaf people use was created by the tribes because we didn't all speak the same language.
Makes sense.
So we had to teach the sign language. The sign language that gave birth to the American Sign Language also gave birth to Morse code because that's a different tribal system. The Morse code was from knocking on trees at far distances with hollow instruments, right? Or sometimes you use instruments that sound like animals screeching, but the chiefs know that that animal don't belong on this part of the land. That means that tribe from that part of the land is sending me a message, right? Or else I wouldn't hear that particular animal. I wouldn't hear a owl that's native to New York screeching in Arizona. Right. But if I hear that tribe in distress call from New York, it's going to sound like to me, there's the owl that's native to New York screeching in Arizona.
Right. Go ahead.
Right. So all of those things that struck terror in the enemies was actually communication methods. Right. So our sovereignty is tied into our ability to reestablish our jurisdictional supremacy over the corporate jurisdiction, and to restore the matriarchy is the only way to restore tribal rights across the land. Because it's the oldest contract of the earth is the matriarchal contract, which designated Earth as the feminine gender planet. That's how it's determined. Right. At onset of creation, it's the first contract. The patriarchs did everything to attack the matriarchy and tear it down, but one thing they never did. They never overturned the matriarchal rights of inheritance to be caretakers of the earth, because their jurisdiction is automatically subverted by the prime creator who assigned the matriarch's jurisdiction over earth. You can go against God, but you can't directly go against God. You got to go against God in a roundabout way. Because when you directly affront to God and say, we overturning your rules, then God react. So in the process, they don't honor no laws on their books when it comes to them, because it has nothing to do with them. All of the laws on the books across the land is only on the books to control the tribes from the land. We didn't have prisons before they came because we didn't need them.
Right.
We didn't have police before they came because we didn't need them.
Right.
We had the greatest problem resolution skills of any people on the planet because we didn't even have dungeons over here.
Wasn't no crime.
But no crime.
No, I looked it up, Raw, and they said the way the tribes did it, they had like a rehabilitation program. It was sort of like that, but it wasn't no prison. It was like where he sat down with the medicine man and he talked to the had talked with like the clan mother, and they did like a psychology type thing on him to assess where he was at, and then they sent him on a mission or whatever they was do to get to as far as his like his rehabilitation or something. It was never no crime like that until 1715. That's what I was going. Let's make to my next question. Now the Moors, from what I found out, the Moors get the bright idea in 1715 to bring white convicts over here and start setting up the penal colonies. Could you go in on the penal colonies set up by the Moors all over? And could you go in what you got on the penal colonies?
Remember when I told y'all that they brought Huns, Vedics, right, and Mongolians that they had captured as prisoners of war and put them as they call them pauper villages in Europe. These villages was populated with POWs. They wasn't allowed to leave because if they got caught leaving, they'd get murdered. So they were setting up homesteads in these villages. These the villages we see the tax collector going to in Robin Hood, right? And so when they brought them over here, they didn't first bring pale faces first. First, they brought those people. That was around the 1619 incursion. The Moors brought their slaves with them when they came. They wasn't called Moors yet, by the way. In the 1500s, they wasn't called Moors yet, right? It hadn't caught on as a global description for brown-skinned, woolly-haired people. Its root word is Mauri, M-A-U-R-I, which is French, right? The French descriptive term Mauri means like brown cinnamon complexion. Right.
Dog skin.
So the term hadn't taken hold like it is now. The usage of the word Moor in colonial period America was very small, if it was even used over here. It began to be used in the 1600s and the 1700s, but it really took hold after 1776. 1776 with the American Revolution is when the word had its boom period, because now the George Washington challenge is at play. And this is why it became prominent to classify the two different groups that's trying to educate themselves above the condition. Inlil children and Tahuti children. This is the land of Tahuti. The land of Enlil is not on earth because he don't belong here. That's why he had to promise his children a piece of land when he created them, right? Because they all come from him, but they don't got no homeland. But everybody that's native to the planet got a homeland that they belong to, like the old Mississippian tribes all belong over here, right? We know that the Sudanese people, the Hadendawa, the Dinka, we know they belong in the Sudanese region. We know that the Zulu and a couple of other of the tribes, them short Bantu tribes, Twa, belong in South Africa because they've been there the whole time since the mining period of Manadapa.
Yeah, the Sands man too.
Everybody is native except one group of people. And these is the people that's running around trying to convince us that they got a promised land for them, but he got them traveling all over the world looking for it. That doesn't make sense. You mean the prime creator, the God of all gods, the inventor of creation, don't know where his people belong?
Right.
Right. Why do you have to fight a war to inherit what your God said he was going to give you unless he was a God of war?
Right.
In that case, he ain't the creator. He's a warlord. And if he a warlord, he came to the right places because the Lord of War gonna be over here when he run into him.
Go ahead.
Right? So the puzzle unravels when we start seeing how we all fit in under the terms, the references, the identification of people. Anybody tell you God picked somebody as a superior group of people is your sworn blood enemy. He just don't even know what he's telling you. God is no respecter of person. Not the real God, not the real creator don't care what you look like. The real creator only care what frequency you vibrate on. He don't care what you look like, where you come from. He don't care if you half dog, half monkey. If you vibrate on the frequency, if you don't believe me, you can ask the Hanuman. Right? Because the monkey god said that he would raise all of you up to be Hanuman, like himself. What was the problem with Hanuman? None of the gods could control Hanuman. They always kissing his behind, but none of the gods could control Hanuman. Think about that for a minute. They was always coming to him to solve the unsolvable problem, but they would always talk about him bad like he was a useless deity. And this is how you get the clone army of the Planet of the Apes through the contagious